Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. What's going on? Microphone secure. Audio's on. Let's go. Soul Not For Sale podcast, episode 505. In this episode, Joe is discussing, he's asked the question, who's your president? Who's your ideal president? And for everybody who's branded Joe as like a far-right extremist, his answer is going to boggle those people's minds. But for those of us that know that Joe is left-leaning more often than not, his answer is not going to surprise us. But it still surprised me a little bit. And we're going to give our answer for who we think our president is. And then I want to know, in the comments, who's your president? Who's your ideal president? It doesn't have to be somebody who's just stepped in or just stepped out. It could be someone far from the past. It could be someone that you see in the future, very near future as well. Let me know who your president is. It's an interesting one. And of course, he's sitting with Patrick Bet-David. Patrick Bet-David asks the greatest questions. A lot of times people go into Joe's studio afraid to ask him questions, afraid to, do a little bit of interviewing towards him. And they just kind of let the conversation flow. Pat really knows what he wants to know from a person. And I love the questions that he asks. He does it in his podcast, and this is no different. So you're going to hear him and Joe sit down and really dive into who Joe's president is. Although I didn't like the fact that Pat didn't answer the question himself, although I'm pretty sure Pat would lean towards Donald Trump. Donald Trump or Andrew Jackson. That's who I think Pat would lean towards. Before I bring you that clip, and let me just go back a second. And I'm going to be bringing you a special clip because I have an answer for who my president is. I'm going to be bringing you a special clip near the end. Very impactful clip, in my opinion. But before I bring you into those clips, got to show you the store, of course. This is Public Enemy #1. It's our newest design, and you can find this on IamCoachColin.com. Let's get a closer look at this beautifulness. Mr. Cricket Connoisseur himself, Dr. Evil, the man no one elected and no one wanted to hear speak, but he bullied his way into the public consciousness anyway. How about that? And we have another new design. It is the certified pure blood shirt for those of you who are unjabbed and proud. Remain that way. This is your certificate of achievement for surviving all of those years unscathed. And last but not least, the Great Resist shirt. Do not join the Great Reset. You've heard of it before. I know you have. Klaus Schwab wrote a book titled The Great Reset and then denied that it was even a thing that they're working towards. But we all know that's not true. Join the Great Resist instead, where we eat meat, homeschool our children because you really have to nowadays, and we do not eat crickets whatsoever. You can find that all on IamCoachColin.com, and if you want 10%, no need to sign up. I'm not taking emails. We don't need that. But this is what I want you to do. In the discount code area, you put in I am Coach Colin. All one word, all capital letters, one L in the name Colin, gets you 10% off. Please use that code. Big purchases, small purchases, anything. There you go. And if you've already done that on our site, thank you so much. Thank you. You are much appreciated. Now let's get into this clip. Let's go.
Is that there's going to be a lot of problems. There's going to be a lot of people that are addicted. There's going to be a lot of people that overdose. There's going to be a lot of people that die.
Joe, at this phase of your life, a 20-year-old is different, 30, 40, 50-year-old is different. What for you, when you're looking at a president, are you more looking at like, here's the 5 issues that matter to me the most today? If somebody can run on these 5 things and you can win, you got my vote. Are you more looking for a person with policies that match yours? Or are you looking for somebody that can, be in charge, lead, cannot be controlled, is a somewhat of an anti-establishment personality that can do their part? What's more important to you at this phase of your life?
Well, that's what's interesting about like asking someone like Trump, what is it like when you get in there? Because we're just guessing, right? We're guessing. What is it? What is the actual experience of a person first day in office? What is it? What's different from what you expected? What I would want is someone who's not controlled and influenced by special interests and money. Is that even possible? I don't know. But there's an extent in which they can be controlled. And, with Biden, I think it's just unchecked. I think it's just 100% controlled. With Trump, I don't think he was very controlled at all. And I think that was why he was the enemy of the intelligence agencies. He was actively going after them and fired Comey and, made all these statements about the deep state and the swamp. That's a real concern. Unchecked power is terrifying. And unchecked power that goes around our Bill of Rights and our Constitution, because they're actively trying to infringe upon people's freedom of speech because it inhibits their financial gains. That's scary shit. And that's what we're seeing in this country. And I don't think that ever leads to anything good. I don't think there's ever a justification. The thing that makes this country amazing is freedom. It's a giant factor in why there's so much innovation and art and creativity that comes out of this country is freedom. Mm-hmm. As soon as you inhibit that, whether you're inhibited with social media posts about COVID or whether it's the Hunter Biden laptop, or you're stopping the flow of information because it's uncomfortable and inconvenient for what you're trying to do. That's un-American. And the more we can stop that, the more a president can stop that, the better it is for everybody.
Who's your president? Do you have a president? Is there a president you're like?
I don't really have a president. I mean, I would.
You know what I'm saying?
Be very interested if Robert Kennedy Jr. could get in there.
No, I'm not talking right now. I'm talking in the past. Like, is there somebody where you're like?
No, not anybody. I mean, as a spokesperson, as a statesman, it was Obama. He was the best statesman we've ever had, the best speaker. He was an example, in my opinion, of someone who's better than us, who's running the country. This is a guy who's like very educated, very articulate, brilliant guy, lawyer, and the way he speaks is presidential. The way he holds himself is presidential. He doesn't get overly emotional. He's not attacking people. It's like I trusted that he was a statesman. He was a shining example of the best of us. Now, when you look at the policies and the attacks on whistleblowers and the drone strikes and all the other shit that happened during that administration and the coup in Russia and there's a lot, or in Ukraine rather, there's a lot that's from a foreign policy perspective that's very similar to what George Bush was doing. But what they were doing was highlighting social justice issues, and that came about during his administration. And it largely obscured the fact that the foreign policies were very similar to what George Bush was doing.
So when are you guys going paddleboarding together? Is it, you guys got like something in Austin Lake or?
Yeah, like a nice shallow place where I could drown. How the fuck? This episode of the podcast is brought to you and that of a quiet packs. How the fuck did that guy drown?
8 feet. That's deep. 8 feet.
Is it? It's not that deep. He's 100 feet from shore.
I know.
If your life depended on it, don't you think you'd swim 100 feet? But then you have to think
Oh man, I was supposed to end it. I got caught up there with that paddle boarding, because you know what he's talking about, right? The chef, the example of the best of us. His chef washes up on some pond they have, just pops up dead. Hey, 8 feet is deep, especially when you're a black guy. I mean, I am the stereotypical black guy. I can't swim. You put me in 8 feet of water, it's gonna be a panic. I'm gonna panic a little bit. Oh my god. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody passed away. I'm sorry. Rest in peace. Condolences to that man and his family. I apologize. But it is, I'm just, from my side of things, when you're black, it's hard. So let's get into it. Obama is his president. And again, I say it because so many people, Joe's far right. How many people think Joe is far right? His president is Obama. The most stately person, the example of someone who is the best of us, better than us. I don't know. Until the drone strikes come. And I'm not even gonna make jokes about it. But yeah, until the drone strikes come and all the things that he did. I view Obama, although the Canadian audience for this show is small, I still like to cover Trudeau. You guys know, if you're from Canada, I have the F Trudeau series that I like to do. I bring them up every once in a while, because it's important to expose that type of fraudulent person. Although the audience is small, still cover him. And when you look at the way Trudeau conducts himself and you look at the way Obama conducted himself, they're very, very similar in the sense of they always have an answer for anything. Even when they're doing things that are clearly wrong, that are clearly not for the people, they still have an answer. They brush off any wrongdoings like it's nothing. They won't be questioned. Exactly why the reason Obama did what he did to Trump. Said you'll never be president. Thought he could just brush off a simple American man. You can't just do that. And, he got taught a lesson because Trump ran and smashed. It was wild. But I don't know. I see Obama and Trudeau very similar. Almost like The Rock. The Rock? Like, The Rock's a great guy, right? But he's always smiling. He's always happy. He always has the absolute perfect thing to say. And although you like the guy, although, like Joe said, he's very statesly, he speaks well when referring to Obama. It's true, but you just know that can't be real. Just like when you see Trudeau talk. Trudeau's talking, you're just like, this is not real. It's not real. People aren't like this all the time. Then when you see Trump, you're like, this is real. This is a real guy. You're seeing his downfalls. You're seeing the shortcomings. You're seeing the little mess ups. You're hearing him on the hot mic, talking like a guy, a little locker room talk. Like, this is a real person. He's a real dude, And yeah, so that's Joe's answer, a left-leaning answer, of course, because a lot of people don't realize, but Joe is left-leaning. He is. He shoots things. He hunts. He chokes people out. He's been choked out. He fights a lot. He does a lot of blue comedy. But he is very left-leaning. Classic liberal, I believe they call them. Now, for me, my president in the past would definitely be JFK, 100%, because he seemed like everything he was doing was for the people. It was in the name of truth, and it didn't matter what all of the constituents and people in the agencies thought. It just didn't matter. He was like, this is not right. We're not doing it. The same way Joe said, it's not American to withhold information and like same thing. He was like, we're going to do the American thing. We're going to have integrity. We're going to have standards. Guy was great. And then if I had to go future, he was JFK, the epitome of what America was at that time. Truthful, had integrity, still is in my opinion, but at that time, unquestionably, the greatest country to exist, the most powerful. That's gone into question as the years go on under Biden. But when JFK was there, like, that's what America was. And he was the epitome of it. Truth, integrity, all that good stuff. Now, in my opinion, Trump is the epitome of America. He is from New York, and like it or not, there's a lot of states. I think Texas is the greatest state in America. But when it comes to being a New Yorker, you could be super elite, multi-billionaire rich, or you could be super in the ghetto poor. But a New Yorker is a New Yorker. You could be elite. You're still going to know how to break balls. You're still going to know how to talk shit. You're still going to be funny. You're still going to be charismatic. You're still going to know how to blend with all types of people. That's Trump through and through. From New York. Just a New Yorker through and through. You can see it in the way he talks, the way he deals with people. It's perfect. And then on top of that, super rich, made his name known all around the world before politics, way before politics. Name known all around the world, known as the quintessential rich guy throughout hip hop, all through the late 80s, early 90s, into the 2000s, pretty much up until he became president, until he got into politics. He was known as the guy. He was the guy. If you wanted to be rich and you were a rapper, you were from the hood, you wanted to be Trump level rich. You just did. I mean, the guy was supermodels, all sorts of things, name all over the place, in big gold letters. Like, he was the guy. So I think right now that's the epitome of America. And it's not that being rich and all that stuff, but like truly expressing the American dream. Just truly grabbing the American dream and being like, I'm just going to inject you with steroids and boom, like Trump empire. But yeah, JFK is my guy, definitely. I think he's the best. I said there was a special clip. I'm sure you saw a little flash of it. I just want to go to that and play that for you guys right now. Beautiful clip. Let me get my face out of here. Let this gentleman speak. I love this speech. My favorite speech. I actually have a playlist on my channel that I believe isn't private. It's titled No Title, and it has this full speech. It's a great speech. And a lot of people say this part that I'm about to play is what sealed his fate as soon as he said these words. Let's go into it.
Contradictory in tone, but which must be reconciled and fulfilled if we are to meet this national peril. I refer first to the need for far greater public information, and second, to the need for far greater official secrecy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. But I do ask
I listen to that speech every few months. I will listen to that speech. It's a great speech where he's just talking about, that whole thing about secret societies, secret proceedings. It's like he passed away. Well, it's like he was murdered, and then that value went away completely from the government. Man, but yeah, a lot of people say he sealed his fate with that. And I understand that. That makes sense. It seems like there's a lot of secret proceedings going on nowadays. Secret oaths, secret societies. But yeah, that's my guy. Who's yours? Let me know who yours is. As you know, Patrick Bet-David gave Joe Rogan a signed letter that was actually signed by Andrew Jackson, written by Andrew Jackson. He's known as like the first anti-establishment president. Let me know who yours is. Who's your guy? If it's Trump, are there any Biden people in the house? Any Biden people? Show yourselves, you silly people. Kidding. But that's my guy, definitely. JFK is my ideal president. That's why our RFK is so wonderful to see, because he understands where JFK was coming from, literally has the same blood as him, and seems like he wants to do the exact same thing, and a lot of people have a lot of things to say, and you're never going to agree with a president fully. It's just never going to happen. The whole country's not going to agree with a president. It's not going to happen. If that happens, that becomes like an emperor. If that happens, you're being forced to agree with what they have to say. So there's always going to be people who disagree, but I think he'd be interesting to see. But we're more than likely going to see Trump, and that's okay too. But yeah, JFK for me. Let me know what you think. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We're doing 1 to 3 videos a day. Who else is doing that? The next one's going to be with my wife. We're covering UFOs. And we're talking about David Gersh, I believe his name is. And we're just talking about how odd it seems that they're talking about all this today. Anyways, guys, that's the episode. Other than that, I am out.